My name's Wendy. I run Vision Walk Suitcase Tours out of Byron Bay. I can't run my tours at the moment because of the COVID-19 pandemic, but what I've decided to do is run a virtual nature tour for everybody, for me to share my favourite nature experiences with you. And just because you're stuck indoors on your sofa or wherever, doesn't mean that you can't explore nature with me. So hop on board and join me for a new adventure each week. So let's get this show started. Today, the first episode is about koalas. Koalas are one of the most iconic species in Australia and possibly the world. Before white man got here, there was 10 million koalas in Australia. And then thanks to logging and deforestation and then the latest bushfires, these numbers have dwindled to about 50,000. This is an awful state of affairs. So a lot of the koalas are living in isolated pockets of populations, and we're in one of those pockets at the moment, and I'm going to walk around and I'm going to try and find some koalas for you. So what we do is we walk around and we're looking for blobs up trees. There's a blob up this tree, and as you can see, it's a termite nest. Now, termites play an important part in the forest. They help break down materials, and they also provide food for hungry things like echidnas. Yum yum. Now, there's 700 species of eucalyptus in Australia, and of those the koalas eat about 30. But each region has its own eucalyptus. So the koalas eat specific eucalyptus in specific areas. And in this area, in the Northern Rivers of New South Wales, they eat these, and these are tallow wood. They love these ones too, which is Eucalyptus grandis or flooded gum, and you can see actually the claw marks from the koalas as they climb up this tree. This means that this is a favourite tree. One of their other favourite trees is this one here. This is a forest red gum. You can see it's a lot reddish, more reddish than the flooded gum. It's one of their absolute favourites. So these are the leaves of eucalyptus. This is what the koalas are eating. If you have any eucalyptus oil in your home, just stop this and grab some and smell it. And that's what I'm smelling now. And that's what every koala does before it eats. It smells the leaf, and if it smells good, it eats it. If it doesn't smell good, it doesn't eat it. They actually prefer these newer fresh shoots at the end. I don't know if you can see from here, but those are actually quite flexible, and the older leaves are a lot harder, and they actually prefer these newer ones. Also, what I can see around here, there has been some koala action here recently, because if I just look on the ground here, here we go, koala scats. There's a koala in this tree, can you see it? What about now? What about now? What about now? Hello. These are very clever koalas around here that can ride bicycles. But jokes aside, we have to be careful, especially driving around at night when the koalas are quite often on the move, that we don't run them over. So slow down and keep your eye out for any wildlife, not just koalas crossing the road at night. So can you see the one in this tree? What about now? Hello. If we look around,
We quite often see koalas asleep in trees. That's because they sleep about 18 hours a day, which is quite a lot. The reason they do this isn't because they're stoned, as some people think. It's just that they're not getting enough nutritional value from what they're eating.
And that's him.
It's making it.
Yeah.
People often ask me if koalas make noise, and clearly they do. The boys make this bellowing sound and the girls make a quite high-pitched sound, but you usually only hear them calling around mating. Koalas usually get on the ground and change trees a few times a day. This can be for a few reasons. It could be to select a new food tree, or it could be to find a nice shady tree to sleep in. When they're on the ground, they can be vulnerable to dog attacks and also getting run over by cars. If we see any koalas with conjunctivitis in their eyes, or something we call wet bottom, this is a sign that they could have a disease called chlamydia. Other things we're looking out for is if they're brown or looking generally dishevelled, or exhibiting odd behaviour like low in trees, not moving from day to day. This is also a sign that they might be sick. So if they're sick, you need to call your local wildlife caring organisation. In this area we call Friends of the Koala. They can come out, they can rescue the koala, they can treat it, and then they'll release it back where they found it. So koalas, like most of our mammals in Australia, are marsupials, which means their mum keeps the baby Joey in a pouch. It basically comes out of the birth canal after about 5 weeks gestation. It goes into the pouch and latches onto one of her 2 teats. And there it'll stay for about 6 months until it grows eyes and fur, and then you start seeing its nose and head popping out of the pouch. Once it's out of the pouch, it will be what we call back young, and it'll just be hanging out all over mum. And then eventually it'll be on a different branch, and then it'll be on a different tree. And then at about 12 months or so, mum will say goodbye to the little Joey, and it'll go off and find its own way in the world.
So these koalas here have lost so much habitat. You can see that there's just a thin row of trees here. And what we need these landholders to do is to allow us to plant trees on their property, so we can actually create more koala habitat for these koalas that are living in these little isolated pockets. So I've been offsetting my carbon for the last 2 years. I've been planting koala food trees to provide important koala habitat, but also been using those tree plantings to offset my carbon footprint for my business. I also choose to use renewable energy at home. I don't have solar panels on my roof, because I can't afford that. But what I do is choose a renewable supplier, and that way I only have to worry about what my vehicle's doing. I'm doing that, and for the last 2 years my business has actually been net carbon negative, and I'm pushing along with this now. So if you want your business or your household, or in the future when we can all travel again, to be net carbon negative, then try the local carbon calculator. It is at localcarbon.com.au, and see what your carbon footprint is. Have a look at ways you can reduce it, and then offset it by planting koala food trees like these ones. These ones here are about 7 years old, and they are already starting to see koalas in them. It's amazing, and it's a win-win situation. We're providing essential koala habitat, and we're offsetting carbon emissions. It's a win-win. What could go wrong?